Hi everyone, welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast. Today we're going to be talking about health and mindset for business owners, and in particular an audience. You'll enjoy this guest. Here he is, Ali Maclean. Welcome to the Stay Hungry podcast.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks very much for having me.
So, for the uninitiated, tell us who you are.
So my name's Ali Maclean. Originally from Belfast. I live in Liverpool now, and I've been a martial arts sort of fighter since I was like 7. I've been doing judo since I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
Started training MMA at 15 and started competing professionally at 17. I got as far as the Ultimate Fighter, but due to sort of the restrictive coaching I had at a younger age, I wasn't able to achieve as much as I wanted during the prime of my career, which had been my 20s. I'm in my 30s now. I'm early 30s, 31. So I didn't really achieve what I wanted. And so since 17 years old, I've been coaching and PTing people at the same time. And a lot of the issues and stuff I faced, I kind of had to face head on by myself. I didn't really have anyone guiding me. That was a problem. And now as I get older, reluctantly, I have to stop competing because I have injuries. I have to move on sort of in my own self. That's reluctant. I don't want to. But the good thing about that is I get to share my own knowledge and how I overcame a lot of issues in fighting and life by myself, and how I can help other people do that. And sort of that's why I relate to guys who are over 30, guys who are sort of stuck in their way and maybe don't understand their own self-sabotaging traits and how they procrastinate and sort of lack the sort of get up and go routine to take in control of their lives that they need.
Sure. Yeah, you can't do. For a lot of our listeners are business owners, and you can't do what you did in your 20s in your 30s. Even in business, in marketing, you have to mature. You have to learn those lessons, and I guess you also have to know when to let something go.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was the hardest thing for me. And sometimes, well, the old saying is when you hit rock bottom, that's the perfect base for like rocket shipping up to the sky. And for me, it was not until I hit rock bottom until I kind of came to terms with the fact that, I'm not actually going to compete no more. That I was able to get clarity in my own life and kind of go, well, hold on, this isn't a bad thing. This is a good thing because the amount of people I can impact now is much greater. Because if you're reluctant to do something, if you're like, yourself in business, if your mind, we were just talking about this, if your mind spread amongst 3-4 different things, they all kind of dilute. Whereas if you're in one pure direction, then it's only going to get better. And for me, it wasn't until I was able to let go of fighting and kind of go, okay, I'm going to impact as many people as possible now that, shit started happening.
Yeah. So if you don't mind me asking, what did rock bottom look like?
So it was literally only not that long ago, to be honest. So it was, we'll be honest, like it's, I don't want to say suicidal thoughts. So I'm not saying suicidal, but for me, rock bottom was kind of like, I hope he has a knife because, if he stabs me with it, I couldn't care. Like I would never, it wasn't suicidal as in, okay, kill me.
Yeah.
It wasn't suicidal as I want to kill myself, but it was a suicidal as I don't really care anymore. I have no reason to live no more. After I came to terms with not fighting anymore. I haven't really spoke about this, but it was kind of like, it was, to be honest, it was when I was out, there's a group of 6 lads and we had an argument. And in my head I was thinking, I hope one of you have a knife. I hope one of you have a knife on you and stab me because I'm going to grab it off you. I'm going to stab you back and we're both going to die. And in my head, that's the dark thoughts I had was like that. And I kind of came to terms with that myself and kind of went, well, why are you thinking like that? What are you missing in your life? What is the emptiness that fighting brought you? Because that's all I did. And it was sort of the impact, helping people, sort of the lack of routine, sort of the mindset changes that I needed, and sort of adhering to a sort of more conducive lifestyle. Fighting can sometimes, it seems like it's healthy on the outside. You see, okay, you're training every day, you're doing this, you're doing that. But a lot of time people drawn to fighting are trying to replace something. And I tell people it's kind of like meditation. is kind of like a distraction sometimes. But sometimes if you can use that, that can be used in a negative way as well, because you're not addressing the issues you have at hand. And for me, that was a big issue for me.
Got you. So judo at 7 years old, which is pretty young. I started judo myself at that age, I think. How did you transition from judo to fighting, and how was that papering over the cracks for you? What was it that you wanted to solve?
So for me, judo, I started at 7 years old, but it was not what I wanted to get into. I thought it was karate or something. I thought there was kicks involved, and I went in, when are we going to learn how to kick? When are we going to learn how to punch? And the person that brought me went, well, we don't do that in judo. We just throw. And I was like, oh, really? So I just kept it up for a few years. But because of family circumstances, I was never able to dedicate myself fully to it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't train as much as I wanted. I was on the Northern Ireland team. I was competing. I was doing all right, but didn't have regular training. I knew I wasn't achieving what I could do. I wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist. I've always had like sort of goals at like big goals, but I would never be able to achieve that because I wasn't training enough. And so I ended up quitting at 14, and I was just looking to fight at that stage. And at 15 years old, there was someone was saying, "Oh, some of the fights bare knuckle in the back of a warehouse in Lisburn." And I went, "Oh, I wouldn't mind doing a bit of that." So I went down and inquired. And he was like, "Well, this is actually a sport. This isn't just us fighting. Like, this is a sport." And I went, "Oh, really?" And he was like, yeah, there's championships and, there's rules and there's ref. And I went, well, can you be world champion and stuff? And he was like, yeah. And I thought, well, okay. And in my head there, I thought there and then, okay, well, I want to be world champion at that because I wasn't able to do it in judo. I thought, well, I'll just do it in fighting because that's actually fighting. And for me at that age, like I hadn't really had a lot of, I wasn't really a social person. I was quite introverted. I had not the greatest, like, sort of school and childhood bring up. So for me, it was going into an environment where someone was coaching you, someone was showing you interest, and you sort of got applause when you want to fight, and you were around a group of like-minded people. You sort of had structure, routine. For me as a kid, it was vital because I hadn't had that before, and I think that's what a lot of people lack, and they don't associate that with martial arts. But the routine, the discipline, and the being around a group of like-minded people cannot be replaced, especially at a young age.
Yeah. Okay, I get that. Yeah, I guess a lot of people go into kind of like the army for that reason, or some people start in business for that reason because they don't like how chaotic being employed is, and they want structure. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's kind of like a lot of people who join mentorship groups, like the one we're part of.
Yeah,
a lot of people stay in them because of the community and the routine that it brings them.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Because people don't have that in their lives. They lack routine, they lack a structure and that community, and also the sort of mentorship of someone showing them a path, someone kind of going, okay, do this next. And that could be important for a kid who maybe, okay, you get that in school, but you're not going to listen in school. There's about subjects you don't want to learn. But as you go to a martial arts gym and there's a coach there who's tough and you look up to him, and he goes, okay, you have to act this way. This is the proper way to act. You're going to listen to him because you have that respect factor. So I think, it was vital for me growing up.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what was that like in terms of discipline? And if you start out by walking into a bare knuckle gym and then you end up at the UFC, there's got to be a fair bit of contrast.
Yeah, well, I got as far as the Ultimate Fighter, so I was like a tiny step behind.
Yeah.
But for me, I wasn't badly brought up. I had discipline and stuff like that. Quite a lot of discipline. But for me, it's about the structure and routine.
Yeah.
And it's what I speak to men now. It's how I relate to men who come into my program. It's about having a routine where you're not just living day to day. You're not just living week to week and leaving sort of health and fitness and your mindset to like chance.
Yes.
There's a set structure to it. And without knowing it, the coach automatically instills that in you. And when I coach someone, I teach 6 key principles of that, of adherence. of sticking to anything. And
Yeah.
it always starts with inspiration. You've got to be inspired to start something. Why do you want to start? For me, it was I wanted to fight, but that wasn't a real reason.
I mean, I watched your latest video, and I think one of the reasons was maybe you're a fat cunt. So...
That's the main reason. That is the main reason for most people. I mean, to be honest, when I was a kid, I was a wee fatty. I didn't do enough exercise. So one of the main reasons for me was getting into shape. Now, if you had asked me back then, I just wanted to fight, to be honest. But it's a massive reason for most people. I mean, if you look in the mirror and you think, fuck, I'm a fat cunt, that's a negative mindset you've got, but that transpires into other things. That's not just like, okay, I'm a fat cunt, and that it stays at that. That goes to self-sabotaging traits then. So when you make a business decision or you're going on a lead on a call with someone, whether you know it or not, subconsciously you're taking that into a conversation with you. Whereas if you exude confidence in how you look and who you are as a person, that always comes across.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know what quote we'll pull out of this podcast, but it's, that's massive in terms of absolutely. It's almost viral. If you let those thoughts start to embed, they affect every area of your life. And I'm as we know, you deal with a lot of business people who maybe they haven't been a cage fighter, maybe they've never done judo, but they've got a lot of fight in them. There's a lot of internal fight going on, and a lot of things where they need to create some order to the chaos.
I think as a man, I think masculinity is kind of looked down upon a little bit. And I don't quite understand why. Maybe this is a feminist movement. I don't mean to offend anyone by that, but sometimes it can be a little bit offensive to be a man these days. And when I say a man, I mean like being proud of like being a little bit tough, hard-nosed. But sometimes, like, again, a man isn't able to express his feelings. He's not able to say he's depressed, anxious. He can't go to his mates and say, look, listen, feeling a bit down, my bird dumped me and this and that, because his mates will probably slag him off. And a major part of the reason why I like working with men is I want them to have a place they can go to and feel comfortable to go, you know what, mate, bird split up with me and I'm a bit depressed over it. And I can go, okay, no problem. Because you're not going to go to your mates.
Yeah.
It's not what you do, but you'll go to your coach. You'll go to someone who seems like a mentor, so to speak. And that's a major part of it. As you say, a lot of business people have that fight inside them, but it's in different aspects of our life, whether it's in business, whether it's with their family, but they're fighting for something. Every man fights for something. But it's sometimes when you lack that routine and clarity and the support that goes with that, sometimes you can empty your own jug. And what I mean by that, if your own jug is empty, you can't fill everyone else's glass in your family. So if you want to fill everyone else's glass in your family, your own jug needs to be full. And that's what I say to people when they work with me. Look, if you want to help your family, you've got to fill your own jug first. And that's not the selfish way. Ultimately, if your jug's full, you can fill everyone else's glass. And many people just do that. Men don't do that.
If the plane's going down, you've got to put your mask on first. And
exactly.
People forget. We talk about that a lot in this office, that as a business owner, it doesn't matter what I've got going on personally. I have to be fulfilled so that when I come to the office, I can be a leader.
Yeah, give 100%. Yeah, I mean, as a man and as a leader, as a man of your family, you tend to be the leader. You should be anyway. You should be taking control of your family, your life, and the direction they go in.
My wife's Italian, mate, so I think
well, I think a lot of people are. I mean, look, listen, a lot of strong women out here can relate to this as well. This isn't just me. I'm saying men because I work with men, but a lot of incredible strong females out there do the same job. It's just, I think for a female, they've got a lot more support. I think a female can go to your mates and kind of express their feelings. I think a lot of females have support systems in place. Whereas I think men kind of lack it, and it's kind of looked down upon. It's almost seen as toxic masculinity when you have a group of men who stand together.
We had this exact conversation with two lovely ladies last week, and we were talking about the difference between toxic masculinity and positive masculinity.
Yes, yeah.
And the fact that toxic masculinity is when you go to the pub with your mates and you bring up a serious topic and they all take the piss out of you for it. That is toxic masculinity.
That is toxic, yeah.
And I think when you reach your 30s, which is ultimately what we're talking about, you realize that you don't have as many friends as you thought you did. And that's a really lonely place for some men. They hit that point and they're like, shit, I've only got 2 or 3 mates. And it can be the opposite. It can be a really empowering thing. You're like, I haven't got to run around after everyone anymore. But
yeah. Well, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, so I was just going to jump in there when you said that, and it's kind of like you just need to hit the nail on the head. Some people can see it as a good thing. Some people can see it as a negative thing.
Yeah.
It's ultimately how you perceive it, and it's the same with any situation. Ultimately, would you rather have 10 mates who you think are all right or kind of all right, but you're not 100% sure, or would you have 2 mates you know are do or die? They're going to stand by your side and go, ultimately put their life on the line for you. Because anyone who's close to me, if we're in a bar and something kicks off, I'm willing to stand side by side no matter what. Like, I'll put my life on the line for them because that's what a real mate does. Whereas I know in the past when I was younger, I wouldn't have had that around me. I wouldn't have had people like that around me. And I'm in a much better place now. I think a lot of the problem with that as well is, as a man, sometimes you kind of, and well, people in general, females as well, we kind of always need someone else for us to feel fulfilled. And that's an emptiness in ourselves. There's ultimately something we're lacking. If you're not happy by yourself, if you can't be in a room for a prolonged period of time by yourself about social interaction, then you're lacking something. And you need to identify what that is. That's ultimately a problem.
That's most people, right? Most people struggle with that now. And I think, if you're not content with your own thoughts, something's amiss. If you need to distract yourself from yourself, something. And we've all been there. Certainly, business owners are there all the time. So
any entrepreneurs kind of like that, aren't they? Because that's why we're constantly looking for new ideas and doing something else, and that's why one of the main things I'll do with someone, and even your listeners doing this right now, you can start if they're not doing some mindfulness practice like a meditation early in the morning.
Yeah,
then they're missing out. It's vital. Like even just 10 minutes a day can make the difference between having clear thoughts and having sort of self-sabotaging negative thoughts that are going to transpire into bad decision making, bad sales calls. It just,
yeah. So how did you hit that point? How did you uncover that, mindfulness, affirmations, structure were the things that you could help people with?
So for me, it was kind of built over a long period of time, over losing fights and sometimes winning fights, but not winning them in the way I wanted. And identifying after the fight, going, hold on, why am I so depressed? What am I missing here? How do I overcome these negative thoughts in my head? How can I stop thinking that I'm not worthwhile, that I'm not very good? And how can I build my confidence in myself? Because after you lose a fight, it's like the lowest of the lows. And for me, it was about, okay, well, the number one step for me is gratitude. Gratitude overpowers everything, even over just mindfulness. Being grateful for what you have right now. Okay, so I've lost a fight, but what am I grateful for? Well, I'm grateful to breathe. I'm grateful for water. I'm grateful for the very, very, very basic necessities that I have every day, but I don't appreciate. And that for me was 30 minutes every day. I did that for 30 minutes every day, and it transformed my life mindset-wise, because I used to have a very negative mind. At the back of my mind, I would always have a negative voice. And when I started doing gratitude for 30 minutes every day, made a massive difference. And anyone listening to this can do that straight away. Just type in gratitude affirmations. Listen to it when you go about your day-to-day business in the morning. If you're doing a meaningless task that you don't need to think about, have it on and don't even think about it, because it'll go in your subconscious mind when you're going about your dishes, when you're walking to work. Just don't even think about it. Just listen to it. And that automatically started transforming my own mindset. Now, the next step of that is also then having your own personal affirmations of what you want to achieve. So for me, it was building that confidence in fights. And for me personally, I wanted to develop the strongest double leg takedown I could create. Okay, so that double leg takedown is where you take someone down to the ground.
Yeah.
So I created my own affirmations where I was just repeating to myself, okay, I am strong and powerful when I do a double leg. It's very basic. Okay. And every time I would go to sleep, before I would go to sleep, I would just repeat it about 20 times, 30 times. I would look in the mirror in the morning, I would repeat them again. I would try and get myself believing that with energy inside. So you have to actually believe it. You can't just say it and kind of go, oh, I'm saying it, but don't really believe it. You have to almost have a bit of energy to it when you're saying it. And then the third step, and this is probably, well, near enough, you could probably put this number one. I don't have it on right now, but I used to have an elastic band on my wrist, okay? And anytime you think anything negative, anytime you have a self-sabotaging thought, or anytime you think you're lesser of a man, you snap it. You snap it and think about something else. And it's kind of like, well, you don't really treat dogs like this anymore, but back in the day, you used to treat a dog, but you used to hit it in the nose when they used to do something you didn't like. I don't advise that. I'm not into hurting dogs, but that's for a man. Have elastic band on anytime you think of some self-sabotaging, negative, something you don't like or something you don't want to think about anymore. Snap the elastic band, and it sort of rewires your brain. Okay, and you repeat that for a 30-day period. Reevaluate where you are, and then with them three things, in my opinion, it transformed how I thought. It transformed how I conducted my day-to-day sort of.
Yeah, that's huge. You touched on something there which is so key to entrepreneurs, and you were talking about fighting, but it's about when you win and it's still not good enough.
That boils down to gratitude. It boils down to gratitude. And a lot of people, because we are type A personalities, the next best thing, we want to go to the next best thing. Oh, I want to do this now. I want to do that now. Whereas we don't take that moment to sort of relax, be grateful for what we've achieved. And even just having that mindfulness of just learning how to relax. You've got to learn how to relax.
Yeah.
And having them non-negotiables in your day-to-day. Someone actually pointed this out. I think it was Joe Parrish. So I'll give him a shout out because he was there at the event the other week.
Coming on the podcast soon too. So
he'll be an outstanding guest. And I think someone else pointed out when he was doing a Q&A, I forget who it was, but they pointed out you should what would you put it? Your week should be rotated around your non-negotiable resting and your sort of non-negotiable hobbies and activities. So like, when are you going to have a rest? When are you going to have an off day? When are you going to go to the golf course? Your week should be based around that, not your work, because your work is always going to be there. You're a type A guy. You're an entrepreneur. You're always going to get the work done. But when are you going to rest? When are you going to take in and be grateful for what you have? And that hit me hard. I went, yeah, that's a good point, because a lot of people don't do that.
That's amazing, isn't it? It's flip your diary and time with your wife, time exercising, time relaxing, time doing your hobbies, and then work around it, which not many people do that.
We feel guilty, don't we? We feel guilty. We have to get this done. I have to get that done. But ultimately, what is the point in having a good, thriving business, money coming in, if you're unhappy, you don't like it?
Yeah.
If your missus hates you, if your kids don't get to see you, like, they are the key principles. If your business suffers a little bit from that, well, so as long as you're staying afloat.
Yeah. So to use a fight analogy, if you took that approach to fighting, you would train so much that by the time fight day came, you wouldn't be able to fight.
Listen, that's exactly why I know this.
Yeah.
I used to do that. I used to leave the fight in the gym. The fight used to be in the gym. Like 90% of the time, I would always leave a little bit in the gym. And it's because, like I say, it's that type A personality where more is always better. Well, no, it's not. No, it's not. Like, you don't want to, just because you think more is better doesn't mean it's the case. A lot of the time, as we said, flipping it on its head is a lot better, because you know you're going to come in at 100%. Whereas if you overdo it, then there's no coming back from that. You know, when you overtrain or anything, too much stress, it's going to affect your business decisions. It's going to affect how you approach a client. And maybe you're a little bit more negative. Maybe you're a bit cheeky on the call, or maybe you don't have the same amount of rapport with that client, all because you've neglected that little bit of rest. Where if you had that bit of rest, you had to smash it in that sales call. You had to smash it with that brand new client, all because you forgot the rest.
So how do you explain that to a new client of yours when I'm sure you have clients that tell you they don't need rest?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a non-negotiable. It's like, we go into this, when you work with me, it's non-negotiable. What I'm going to tell you, you're going to put 100% faith in me, that I'm going to show you the way. And a lot of the time I will give the analogy of me fighting, like I've just said with you, like fighting, like, so a good example was my last fight, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I was working my business at the same time. I was training full time, but I was also working security at nighttime. 10 hours at night, 10 hours a night, 7 days a week. And I went into the fight like not the same person, not the same snap. And ultimately, I lost and paid the price for it. And as I say, the client's like, listen, you're speaking to someone who's been there. Like it's not intelligent, it's not big just because you think you can do more. A lot of the case, it's not. It's just the complete opposite. I mean, it's kind of, if we relate it to like how the body works, your muscles recover a lot quicker than your tendons and joints, but you won't feel your tendons and joints sore. You won't feel them sore. They'll just go on you. They'll just go. That's why you get injured, because you haven't. If you're doing a lot of strength work, you've got to let them recover. They need a lot more time to recover than your muscles do, but you won't feel it. Sometimes you're going to have to trust the process. You've got to trust the coach or the science.
Yeah.
A lot of the case is the same with like your business. Look, listen, you might not right now think I'm right, but when the results show, which is my before and after is a good example of that. Like when the results show, then you'll thank me.
Yeah, and it's true in business that you can push and push and push and push, and then something just snaps. It's the same. Yeah. It's the same thing, and in relationships. If you push too hard to please and push and push and push and push, and then something just snaps, and you've got to be able to take a step back. You've got to be able to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So we've covered some ground in this podcast. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
So Instagram, Ali MacLean's AliMacleans, probably the best way, or fatfightcamp.com.
Fatfightcamp.com. Awesome. Ali, you've been a wicked guest. Thanks so much for coming on.